personally, as you approach these two operations, both physically and mentally? For instance, does your throat hurt you when you talk? Do you have any feeling of dread about going under surgery again?
No, I don't recommend them. I don't favor them. I don't think it ought to be a part of your vacation, but those things come to you and you have to face up to them, and I think that I'm very fortunate that I have a job that I can kind of regulate myself, that I have a lot of good help, that I have the finest doctors and the best hospital facilities in the country. And actually, after all, it's not anything to make a great show over. They're relatively minor. Most of the people in this room have suffered considerably more serious problems than I'll face with getting a little polyp out of my throat. And I don't think it's going to be necessary that I use my throat much anyway in the next few days. Mr. Bailey?
Sir, as a result of your talks with the leaders of our allies in Vietnam, would you anticipate that more manpower would be forthcoming from them in the near future for that war?
General Westmoreland made it clear that we would need additional manpower. All the participants in the conference heard his presentation. When and as and if he asks for additional manpower, we will supply it, and I think that every nation involved would do what they thought was desirable and necessary to support the men that they have protecting the territorial integrity of that area. I think it's bad for you to speculate in Andrew H. Brown figures about how many hundreds of thousands are going to be needed when General Westmoreland himself doesn't know. But I think suffice to say, without involving any credibility, that whatever is needed is going to be done. We're not going to leave those men there asking for support and not give it to them. I think that we have a reasonable strength there now. I think we will add to it from time to time. I would hope, of course, that the adversary would see the utter futility of continuing this confrontation and would agree to go from the battlefield to the conference room. But until he does, the men there are going to give a good account of themselves. General Westmoreland said no commander-in-chief ever commanded a more proficient or competent group of men. And if they need some more to help them, they'll be sent. Mr. Sheriff.
On that point, you said recently that only two nations want the fighting continued. Does this mean the United States has had some positive indication from the Soviet Union that it would like to see the fighting stopped?
Yes, I believe most of the nations of the world would like to see the fighting stopped. I just can't conceive of any nation enjoying what's going on, and I think most of them can realize the danger of continuing this unpleasantness. I don't know that many nations have much power to do anything about it. I know we want it stopped. We'd like to stop it tomorrow. We'd like to stop it today. We'd like to stop it this minute. We'll do anything we can with honor to stop it. We seek peace. We search for peace. We're willing to do anything we can to get peace except surrender. We're not asking any unconditional surrender on the part of the adversary. We're just saying to them, come in the room and let's reason together. Let's talk out our difficulties. And they refuse to do that. Now, I don't know why they refuse to do it. I think that as time goes on and they see that that is the better course, I hope they will do it. And when they do, they will find us a willing participant in any meeting that can be agreed upon.
Could you be more specific, sir, about the Soviet position?
I said that I thought every nation except our adversaries would like to see the fighting stopped. I'm not a spokesman for the Soviet Union. I cannot speak for Mr. Brezhnev or Mr. Kosygin or Mr. Gromyko, but I have every reason to believe that they would like to see the fighting stopped as much as we would like to see it stopped. And I think everybody else in the world would like to see it stopped. Perhaps the North Vietnamese would like to see it stopped, but our communication's bad, and at least up to this time, we have been unable to convince them that the way to stop it is to come to the conference room. Now, we don't know why. We wish we did know why. We'd go more than halfway if we just knew which way to go. Mr. Harriman's going one way now, and Mr. Bundy's going another way now, and Mr. Black's going another way, and Mr. Rusk will be going to NATO meeting, and I asked him to go back through Asia on his way there the other way around. But until we can reason this thing out, we must maintain the strength to defend our men and to defend territorial integrity of the boundaries of our allies. We intend to do that.
Mr. President,
Potter.
Mr. President, the Pope is reported to be mounting a drive for another Christmas truce accompanied by another pause in the bombing. Would our government be receptive to that?
I would not want to speculate. I don't know what proposals His Holiness might make. Whatever proposals he made would be very seriously considered and evaluated. I can't conceive of anyone feeling that one side ought to stop bombing and the other side ought to continue it. I would hope that all this talk about stopping the bombing would have some reference to the bombing that they did on Independence Day when General Westmoreland and them the day before yesterday intended to go out to a ceremony they were having, and they tried to bomb the place where he was supposed to sit. I would hope that some of this stopping the bombing agitation would be directed to the folks that throw the bombs at our embassies in Saigon. We've never bombed the North Vietnamese embassy. We have never bombed their population. Sure, we try to hit a military target, a petroleum target, or an electric plant, but here they come in and try to bomb the seats where our ambassador, where the head of state, where our general commanding forces, and if they want us to stop bombing, we've got to see what they're willing to stop. And we'll be glad to carefully consider anyone's proposals that represent two-way streets. We don't want to talk about just half of it, though.
Mr. President, in view of the North Korean attack on an American patrol in Korea, could you assess for us the situation at the 38th parallel today?
We have had some increased incidents there of late. We are filing a very strong protest for this totally unjustified murder of 6 of our men. We will make the strongest representations. We would hope that it is not indicative of any continued desire on the part of the North Koreans to violate the terms of the armistice, and certainly the United States of America does not plan to violate the terms of that armistice, and we hope they won't either. Ms. Means?
Mr. President, does the cancellation of your big campaign trip mean that you do not intend to do anything to help Democratic candidates before elections, such as one little speech in Texas or maybe a campaign TV pep talk before election?
First, we don't have any plans. So when you don't have plans, you don't cancel plans. We get invited to come to most of the states. In the last 6 weeks, we've been invited to 47 of the states by the candidates for governor, the Senate, or the Congress. We've been invited on non-political invitations to the other 3 states, I might say. But we have not accepted those invitations. We do contact the local people who extend them. We do investigate in some instances going there, and we do express the hope that we can go. But until it's firm, until we know we can, we do not say we accept and schedule. And the people of this country ought to know that all these canceled plans primarily involve the imagination of people who phrase sentences and write columns and have to report what they hope or what they imagine. We have no plans for any political speeches between now and the election. We know no requirement that we forego them. I just don't think they're necessary. And I have had a very active year, and I would hope I could spend a relatively quiet weekend and go vote on Tuesday morning. I hope every American will go vote on Tuesday morning, and if they do, I have not the slightest doubt but what their good judgment will prevail and the best interests of our country will be served. But I have no plans to make any speeches. I have not canceled any plans that I had agreed to, although I did express the hope early in the year that I could visit as many states as possible. And I visited approximately 30 this year, which sets some kind of a record itself. If I do schedule anything between now and next Tuesday, I would feel that I'm perfectly at liberty to do so, and if I did, I'd give you due and adequate notice. Mr. Rather.
Could you give us your estimate of whether the inflationary pressures on the economy are easing up or increasing at the present time?
Well, there's been a very healthy movement toward price stability in recent weeks on the economic front. I wouldn't say in the newspapers or the radio television, but the statistics would indicate that. The Department of Labor this morning released the wholesale price index in October. From February through October, that's roughly 10 months, we've had only a gain of 0.8%. And the index released shows that we had a decline of 0.6% from September, and it brought the average level of prices back below any month since June. So I think that that's a very healthy movement. I want to reiterate that while we have had some gains, some increases in prices, that's been brought about by increases in wages that we thought were very desirable in the low earnings group. The lowest paid people in this country got some increases. The hospital workers, the bus drivers, the lower paid group. And that did bring up prices some. You can't do it without it. But prices have increased less in the 6 years of the Kennedy-Johnson administration, with Vietnam on and all the pressures that it brings. They've increased less than they did the previous 6 years in the Eisenhower administration. But the wages have increased much more, and you have more money to pay the increased prices with than you did in the previous 6 years. So I don't think anybody can make much out of that. All you got to do is say, well, now, if you're worried about inflation, you're an expert on it, because you had a much better record in that field than we had. Mr. Spivak.
Mr. President, as you know, an aura of mystery has developed around the assassination of President Kennedy. And I'm thinking of 2 or 3 books that were written and some lawyers and others casting doubts on the works of the Warren Commission. Now, the case, as I understand it, was based on the alleged mysterious disappearance of photos, x-rays, and so forth. Now the Justice Department discloses that the Kennedy family had these documents. They've now been turned over to the National Archives. I wonder why that was not disclosed before, and also why this material is still not available to competent non-government investigators.
Well, first, I think it's been available to the Warren Commission any time it wanted to see it. Second, I think it's available to any official body now. Third, I think that every American can understand the reasons why we wouldn't want to have the garments and the records and everything paraded out in every sewing circle in the country to be exploited and used without serving any good or official purpose. And as my understanding, all this took place